Senior Moments, sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Good morning and welcome to the Senior Moment Show. We are excited to be back for another show. My name is Bruce Lee. I'm here with my co-host again, Sid Roeder, and we're excited for a new show. Sid, good morning.
Good morning, Bruce. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. You know, it's good to be here in the Cache Valley, right?
It is.
Nothing better than listening to a radio show early in the morning on Saturday.
Yeah. Feet up.
Hopefully people are comfy this morning. So we're excited about our show. We've got Jase Allen back, who is with the Allen Law Office. Good morning, Jase.
Good morning.
So we'll introduce Jase a little bit more here in just a second. But before we get going, Sid, let's talk about our sponsor.
Happy to. Our sponsor is the Empowering Seniors Group, which is a group of professionals that has dedicated their time and efforts to provide seniors, their families, caretakers, and really anyone who cares with valuable information, which is why we host this radio show. If you'd like to learn more about the Empowering Seniors Group, you can do so at empoweringseniors.info, or you can email us at empoweringseniorscv@gmail.com, and the CV stands for Cache Valley. And lastly, if you have any suggestions for this show, if we haven't touched on a subject you'd be interested in, give me a call at 435-512-6406.
Thanks, Sid. So, I want to let everybody know that Jase is actually a member of the Empowering Seniors Group, and we're just really grateful to have him be part of the group. And when I think about what we're trying to accomplish as a group, getting professional services accessible to people within the Valley who may not completely understand how to access them. Jase's profession as an estate planning and probate attorney is one that might be a little difficult for people to understand, to know how to access unless they have a specific problem. So I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have here today. So Jase, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
As I mentioned, you are an estate and probate attorney with Allen Law Office. Before we get started, we actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to be doing that and why it's important to you?
Yeah, you bet. So I went to law school and kind of in the back of my head thought that I could come back to Cache Valley and have an estate planning law practice eventually. What I mean by that is I actually grew up in the family business, Allen Hall Mortuary, and in that business there's always people with needs of estate planning and probate, and what do we do after mom dies? We need to sell the house. What do we do? And these legal questions. And so I thought that there'd be a great opportunity for me to go to law school and, focus in that area of law and come back. Now, after law school, I did work for a couple of law firms, just to get some training and things. And then when the time was right, actually came back, opened up my own law practice, and also went in to the family business with my father. And I've been to mortuary school and all that too, so I'm a third-generation funeral director. But I think that helps in helping to basically understand people's needs before someone passes, after they pass, and as far as their estate goes and what they need to do.
So you mentioned that you're also a licensed funeral director.
Uh-huh.
So within your career, how much time are you spending in the law side versus the funeral side?
So my law office is actually on site there. It's a different building than the mortuary. Obviously, they're separate businesses and run separately. But because it's all in one location, I'm kind of back and forth. And so it's hard to really say. I'm just there. I'm either at one or the other every day. And so, but I do dedicate certain days where it's just the law office, and I have my secretary schedule appointments on certain days. But then, if I'm at the mortuary meeting with a family, they may say, hey, I've got a quick legal question. What do we do about this? So I'm acting, so then I'm able to answer the question there. So it's hard to give a kind of a breakdown on it because it seems like I'm just doing both a lot.
It sounds a little bit like there is a chance you might not always get paid for your services.
That's true, and that's okay, because it's more about helping people. And, like today, I met with someone, their CPA referred them to me. She came in and she thought that she was going to have to do a full-blown probate on this property that she had. And after, about 10 minutes of research while she was there, I was able to tell her, you know what? There's actually some solutions here where we can save you a bunch of money and not do a probate. And so that was kind of fun, because it's just people need to get the right help is what it comes down to.
Do you think there's I'm guessing you do think this, but is there an advantage of doing both of these jobs? I mean, the relationship between estate planning and being involved with funeral and end-of-life stuff, how is that meshed for you to where you're really can help people?
On the estate planning side, as we're going through, whether it's a will or a trust or power of attorney, and people are really thinking about the future and they just want to make sure that their loved ones have the least amount of stress and burden as possible. And in my opinion, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I think that pre-planned funerals and pre-planning someone's funeral is part of that. And so I think that if their goal is to kind of minimize stress and burden on their loved ones, then they need to have their funeral plans as part of that. And they can get that pre-planned, and they can also pre-fund those. And so, whether or not they use our mortuary or another funeral home, I've definitely had clients that they're like, we live here, but we're going to be, buried in Idaho, and there's a funeral home in Idaho Falls we want to use. That's great. That's awesome. And I still would recommend that they go and pre-plan and everything like that. And so it's definitely an important part of it.
And that is actually what we'd like to talk about today, Jase. We've talked about probate before in previous show, and that was quite interesting. Let's focus today a little bit on pre-planning your funeral, Jase. And I know there's a couple different ways. Maybe you can, before we step out to our first break, maybe you can let us know what types of planning there are.
Sure. So there's multiple. One would be just having their final wishes written down, and we can do that in a legal document where it says I want to be cremated, or I want to have a burial, I want to be buried in this cemetery or whatever. That's a type of pre-planning. Though it's not funded or anything like that, it's better than nothing, because at least your heirs and things know what your wishes are. Two is sometimes people just have a life insurance policy that's not tied to any sort of funeral home or anything like that, but at least there's some funds there that if they were to pass, that can be used. Next is there's an insurance policy that can be tied to a funeral home. And the benefit of that is the prices will be locked in. So not only will the insurance money be there, but whenever you set it up, the prices can be locked in at the time it was set up. And finally, there's one that's a pre-need trust plan where it's set up, the money's kept in trust, there actually has to be a Utah financial institution, a bank that has a trust division. There's only a few banks in Utah that do this. And that money's kept in trust. And then when the person passes away, the funeral home has access to those funds. And again, the price is locked in on those as well.
Thank you, Jase. This is the Senior Moments Show. We're visiting today with Jase Allen. He is with the Allen Law Office. And Jase, before we step out for our first break, I'd love to hear your contact information in case any of our listeners have any questions for you.
Sure. So my office is right by Allen Hall Mortuary, 44 East Center Street in Logan. And cashlegal.com is our web address. And then our phone number is 435-227-5468.
Thank you, Jase. This is the Senior Moments Show. We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
Did you know that one of the greatest threats to our quality of life is a fall? 1/3 of Americans 65 and older, and 1/2 of those over 80 will fall this year. Many will never be the same again, and some will never return to their homes. This is Bruce at Comfort Care. One of the ways we can help people stay in their home is through our free in-home fall protection survey. Let us help you identify these fall risks. Call us at 754-7676. Comfort Care, 754-7676.
In today's world, we often think it's cheaper to order through the mail, right? In the case of prescriptions, that's not always true. Reed's Pharmacy in Hiram, your locally owned Health Mart pharmacy, is often less expensive than mail order plans. Plus, you can talk to the pharmacist in person or on the phone. Who better to help navigate the confusing world of medicine than the pharmacist at Reed's Pharmacy in Hiram? Reed's trained pharmacists will help you navigate the maze of healthcare. Call 245-DRUG for more information. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
Did you know 1 in 3 people will visit a nursing home? Did you know that once there, they will stay there for an average of 3 years? Did you also know there are insurance options that can help cover this experience? Hi, I'm Tracy Ferris with Blue Water Health Insurance. It's not cheap to stay in a full-fledged nursing home. Long-term care insurance can help you or a loved one get the care they need and deserve. If you wait until you need it, you may be too late. Give me a call at 435-890-8155.
Welcome back to the Senior Moment Show. Again, I'm Bruce Lee. I am hosting with Sid Roeder, my co-host. So much fun today. We're talking to Jase Allen, who is, if you're just joining us, he is with the Allen Law Office, and he's an estate and probate attorney. And before we went to break, we were talking about funeral planning, interestingly enough. Jase is part of Allen Hall Mortuaries as well. That's his family. And so he does lots of things, wears different hats, as they say. But we're talking a little bit about funeral planning and maybe some of the things that happen there. And so let's expand on that a little bit more, Jase, and maybe talk about what you do and maybe some pitfalls.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about the different types of funeral plans, and maybe I'll just focus in on a couple of those. One is, and one thing that we do at the funeral home is we can offer a pre-planned funeral that's tied with an independent insurance company. And these insurance companies specialize in funeral insurance. So, it's not like it's a life insurance company that necessarily you've heard of, like MetLife or something like that. But the one that we use is called Great Western Insurance. But other funeral homes have other, insurance companies as well. How that works is you come in and you, like a funeral plan, you pick out your casket, your vault, the type of service that you want, or if it's cremation, and then it's funded through the insurance that you pay premiums to. But we guarantee the goods and services. We can make it irrevocable for Medicaid purposes. So if someone ever goes into a nursing home, if it's an irrevocable funeral plan, that's an exempt asset. And so it's important to make sure, that's one of the pitfalls, is make sure that your funeral plan is irrevocable if you want that Medicaid protection. So that's one. The insurance, if it's tied to a funeral home, that helps you, so your prices are guaranteed. And obviously the insurance that can be transferred between funeral homes as well if you move or something like that. The other that we talked about before the break was a irrevocable pre-need trust agreement. Now, there's a few benefits to the trust. One is that you're going to pay less traditionally than the insurance, because insurance, you're paying for insurance. And so that's part of the dollars and cents that goes into it is some insurance. With the trust, you essentially plan out what type of funeral or cremation service you want and the merchandise, and you just pay that amount. And there's no insurance on top of it. And so people can pay it all up front, or they can pay it spread out over, 3 or 5 years, but that money is guaranteed. Now, it's important to make sure that if you have one of these, that it was set up properly and correctly. Now, by law, these trust plans, the trustee has to be a Utah financial institution. For us, it's the Bank of Utah. They are the trustee. They are over the money to make sure it's kept safe, And then when someone passes away, the funeral home gives the trustee a death certificate, and they're able to give us money to pay for the casket and the vault and the services that are planned. And so one thing to make sure is if you do have one of those and the contract says trust on it, and you're unsure about what it is, ask the funeral home who the trustee is. You want to make sure that that's kept safe. And, if you had any questions, you could check with the bank and make sure that they do indeed have a trust account set up and that bank is actually the trustee.
So if I've done that a while back and I do have a trust laying around and I am uncertain about that, so there's really two ways I can go about this. I can either, give an attorney a call, correct? Or I can call the bank that is listed on the trust, I would presume, and make sure that money is properly dealt with.
Yeah, or you can call the funeral home and ask them who the bank is that's the trustee. Because you may have set it up years and years ago, and they're using a different bank as the trustee now. So, before even you'd necessarily need to contact an attorney, you could just ask the funeral home who the trustee is, and then you could contact the trust division at the bank and just make sure that, yes, they do have a trust with them.
And what would be the right question to ask then to the bank if I'm calling?
Just, does this funeral home have a pre-need trust with you guys? As silly as that sounds.
Can they reveal that? Do they have any?
Oh, yeah, they would reveal it. Mm-hmm.
So how can I make specifically certain that the amount that I have paid to the funeral home is held in that trust account?
So there's supposed to be an kind of an annual review or audit that's done. It used to be that the state required us to submit those to the state of Utah, and now they're just supposed to be kept on file. And so, I know with us, if anyone asks, we could definitely show them that documentation.
So you have to go to the funeral home and
the
ask
funeral
for
home
that
would have
form.
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about where the money goes actually, and so when you do some funeral planning, how is that composed? So we've talked about it possibly can go to trust. I assume that the planner has to get paid. Money has to be set aside for the costs of the funeral.
Right.
And as people are doing that, usually, as I've heard these things promoted, they're promoted in a way that is, get your planning done now. You're going to save money. Your costs will be taken care of. So how does that work?
Yeah. So essentially, the plan's figured out of what goods and services you want. And then as far as, it being held in trust that's where, the state of Utah has said it has to be a Utah financial institution. The mortuary doesn't hold it in trust. The bank holds it in trust. And so actually, when someone makes a payment at our funeral home, we deposit those funds into not our account, but into the bank's, trust account. And then, it earns interest and things like that, invested conservatively so that we can, beat inflation or whatever. But, let's say the market's in a down year, the funeral home is still obligated to provide the goods and services. And so, if the market's down and someone passes away and that trust matures, the funeral home is still obligated to provide your casket, vault, and services. So that's why in pre-planning, you want to make sure that you have a funeral home that can honor that and that's, financially secure. And, we feel we've been around for, over 75 years and have a good track record with it.
Thank you, Jase. We're coming up on our second break already. This is the Senior Moments Show. Jase, before we step out for this second break, would you share your contact information with us one more time?
Yeah, so the law office is right next to Allen Hall Mortuary at 44 East Center Street. And our website is cashlegal.com, cash like Cache County. Phone number 435-227-5468.
Thank you. This is the Senior Moments Show. Visiting today with Jase Allen. He is with the Allen Law Office. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back.
At Maple Springs Senior Living in North Logan, we understand that entrusting the care of your loved one to someone else is a decision not taken lightly. That's why we go above and beyond to create a nurturing environment where your family becomes our family.
When I found Maple Springs, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. The staff here really cares, and Mom is thriving.
The activities and social events have brought so much joy to Dad's life. I can see a positive change every time I visit.
We know that your loved one's well-being is your top priority, and it's ours too. Learn more at maplesprings.living.com.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
No problem, sweetie.
I can't believe you're able to fit everything in that little sedan.
Bye!
When they move out, you can move on to a house that fits your life. It's time to live in a space that fits your family.
Hi, this is Sid Roeder with Achievement Realty.
Let me help you to find a home that suits your needs and is less to take care of. Save money or even make money on the sale of your current home. Call me today at 512-6406, then list it, sell it, and move on.
Hi, this is Tyler. Recently, my father passed away, and White Pine provided the funeral services for our family. They were friendly, thoughtful, and attentive to every detail. It isn't often that a loved one passes away, so it was very important to my family that everything be handled just right. Because my dad was loved by so many people, we had a lot of family and friends that traveled from out of town. I really appreciate how White Pine Funeral Services made sure everyone was comfortable and that the focus was where it needed to be, on my dad and my family. They really took care of us during this tender time.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
Welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, this is the Senior Moment Show, and we are here with Jase Allen, who's with the Allen Law Office. He is an estate and probate attorney, and as we went to break, Jase was sharing his contact information. His phone number was a little quick, and so I've asked him to share that again just a little bit slower so anybody who might want to call might be able to get those digits.
Feel free to blow up our phones, 435-227-5468.
Thank you. So talking about, we've talked a lot about funeral planning today, from the estate planning perspective and your perspective with your particular skill set. And we've talked a lot about a particular type, which is the type where you pay in and the money goes into trust. It's kind of a local solution, isn't it? What if I'm not sure if I'm going to be local?
Yeah, so obviously the two plans, the insurance and the trust, we've talked about the trust. If folks think they're going to be moving out of town, the trust is transferable and they will pay less for the trust, but a lot of times we will have people do insurance if they think they're going to move because it's easily, not that the trust isn't easily transferable, but the insurance is, meant to really go anywhere, where the trust is really meant to stay at the mortuary that you set it up with. And so if people are thinking that I don't know if I'll be here when I pass away, the insurance is a great option.
So let me ask on the insurance end, because we've talked about pre-planning, picking the casket and all those things. So that is not something that happens, or does that happen with the insurance that you pick out your whole funeral proceedings?
So if the insurance is tied with the mortuary, you can pre-select the merchandise, the casket, the vault, things like that. Now, some people want to pick out the exact model and make of the casket, and they want to come into the showroom and look, and that's fine. We can actually write the exact casket, and that exact casket or an equivalent, if they stop making that model, will be provided. Or sometimes people say, you know what, I don't want to go and look at caskets right now. It seems a little weird to me, but I do know I want, a wood casket mid-grade, and we can allocate a specific dollar amount and kind of specify a type of casket, even not a specific model.
So with the insurance option, you really wouldn't be doing that. If I understand you correctly, you wouldn't be picking specifics, maybe values of specifics.
No, you can pick specifics with the insurance as well.
And that would transfer to another funeral home?
But the other funeral home isn't on the line to guarantee the price, though. But the funds would transfer.
So if it's transferring, you're basically just transferring a dollar amount.
Yeah.
There's a value that you establish when the insurance policy is set up.
Sure.
Gotcha.
I've got a follow-up question on that one. So do you know if there is a big variation in price in different parts of the country when it comes to funeral services?
Yeah, there can be. For instance, especially, let's take some burial space items. I mean, if you try and pick a burial plot here in Cache Valley, it could be $300, $400, $500 for a plot. Go to Southern California, it could be $10,000 just for the burial space. And so, yeah, depending on the area, the price can change quite a bit.
So that might mean then if someone bought a plan here and it is transferable, if they went to a location like that, they may need to do more planning.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they could upgrade their plan, or just if they knew ahead of time and they moved, I would take that plan into the local funeral home and say, here's what we have. Do we need anything more?
Wow, I guess I never realized how complicated that can be. So if you have your plot in Cache Valley and you are thinking of moving somewhere else and may not want to buy another plot, is there any way to pre-plan transport costs to actually have the funeral in Cache Valley?
Yeah, because a lot of people that are buried outside of Cache Valley pre-plan through us because they live here, they want to have a funeral here, and then we can have the transport cost built in to then, have the casket taken to the Salt Lake City International Airport and shipped to the location where the final arrangements will be made. And we can work with another funeral home on the receiving end to make sure that all the wishes are carried out.
What if the person moves out of the country?
I've done that before. So I've had it where they were buried in Mexico, and we have to get paperwork through the Mexican consulate, and we have to get, it's called an apostille through the lieutenant governor's office. And, but we are very well acquainted with international paperwork that needs to take place. It takes some time, and so people have to be a little bit patient, but we can definitely help with that.
Wow. One of these days, I'm going to have to face that. I think for the sake of your children, pre-planning is always a good idea because you don't, you're doing your kids a great favor. Jase, you actually just waved a thing. We still have time for those of our listeners who are interested in getting more information. Allen Hall Mortuary actually has an amazing magazine with tons and tons of information about funeral planning. It's Jase. It's free, right? If somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a funeral planning guide that we've spent a lot of hours in putting great content. There's actually a section that I wrote from the legal perspective called After the Funeral, a Legal Guide. There's pre-planning checklists, a lot of really good information where you can write down helpful information for your loved ones. And we have these guides at Allen Hall Mortuary, 34 East Center Street, that people can come by and pick up for free. And it's very helpful. People have found it very helpful, and they're brand new. So come and get them.
Thank you, Jase. Thanks, Jase, for coming in. This was a very interesting show. This is the Senior Moments Show. Sadly, we're at the end, and we'll hope to have you listen again next week.